pretty songs. Very good.
I got that. That's from got that from a Wes Montgomery record.
Ah.
There's another bossa nova he does on one of those A&M records, that with, the commercial records he made in the late 60s. It starts with that lick. Something about that groove, the sound of that.
It's a really nice sounding chord voicing too.
Yeah. I've been experimenting with this.
Barry Harris, right?
Barry Harris did that too. George Shearing kind of,
Did he pioneer it more?
I think he may have pioneered it.
Have you? I've been experimenting with it as well.
Uh-huh.
Have you tried applying it to a tune?
Sure.
Yeah.
Like... From there, turn it into a drop two voicing, and then in the tune will be.
So tasty. Do you ever write that way for horns?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
That's a great way to orchestrate for like a saxophone section. If you want that like the Glenn Miller sound was just that, and then open it up. Yeah.
I find that when you're trying to employ that in a tune, it's got to be a fairly diatonic region of the tune.
Right. Right.
So you have to pick and choose your sections.
Uh-huh. And you got to know what key you're in at any given time.
Yeah.
And of course we always we on a subconscious level we usually know what key we're in if we don't think about it too much. That's the secret.
Hi everybody, welcome to Aimee Nolte Music. This is my friend and my teacher, my mentor, one of my great heroes, Steve Call. And today we're just hanging out because I happen to be in Utah. Steve recently retired, but gosh, like 20 years ago,
right.
A little more than that, when I auditioned to get into the BYU School of Music, he's the reason I got in. I could.
No, you got in because you could play. And I remember your audition. You remember what you played?
Autumn Leaves?
Right.
I can't believe you remember that.
Yeah.
I could hardly play. I mean, I could walk a bass line,
uh-huh.
but I was playing chords with roots in them, and.
But you had a great ear, and you had a great sense of swing, and heard a lot of potential.
You kind of took a chance on me. I'm forever grateful for that. Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you about. I think one of the great things I learned from you, I'm still learning it, but was the importance of melody.
Right.
And how, when you're learning to improvise, the melody is everything.
Oh, yeah. And I think the thing that's generally wrong with jazz education, although I think there are more trends to fix this problem, was the chord scale relationship overemphasis of that.
Yeah.
So we teach kids to play based on you have this chord, you play the notes from this scale, but that's not how all the greats learned. That they just learned by playing the melody and using their ear to embellish the melody in a way that it turns into something new. And so you got to play the melody.
Yeah.
If you don't know the melody, you don't know the tune.
Right. And also knowing the melody by heart
Uh-huh.
and well.
Mm-hmm.
And I often think this is something that gets skipped. And you're great at it. Like Steve's a wonderful lower brass player. But if I asked you to play the melody to almost any song in any key, you could probably do it with very little mistake.
Very slowly in some strange keys, but
Uh-huh.
yeah, most in the standard keys I could do it, no problem. But I'm not that great at playing in all these different keys.
I went to this jazz camp in South Carolina in the summer, last summer, and I thought I'd just do a really simple kind of lesson about this. And I got up in front of everybody and I said, you want to see something really cool? Like, I'm going to blow you away. And then I just played the melody to Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer with one finger.
Uh-huh.
And then I said, do any of you think you could come up here and do that in the key of C? And I didn't get one person.
Did anybody get up and try?
Nobody tried. I had to make somebody try.
Uh-huh.
And she could do it, but
Uh-huh.
it was really strained. And it just made me think, nobody's teaching this. Like, this should be the first part of improvisation, to make sure you can play a melody that you already know on your instrument.
Right. First you got to be able to sing it too.
Right.
And
In tune.
there's that mind-body connection. I know when I'm like, I play brass instruments mostly, but when I'm riding the car and listening to music and look up on the steering wheel, they're my fingers. These 3 fingers are doing these things. Hey guys, what are you doing? We're playing along with this song on the radio. And that's what, it's subconscious, Hear a note, 3 fingers. But I haven't developed my piano chops so that I could be that fluid with the fingerings. But I think there is a connection with the notes I hear and the keys I push down,
I wonder if when you're doing that in your car, I just wonder if your embouchure is working as well.
Probably there's something happening in here.
A little bit.
It's more my breath is doing it.
Yeah.
Because my embouchure responds to the air I'm putting through.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just like an organic kind of connection.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
It's like when you sing.
Yeah.
You don't have to send messages to your vocal cords that, oh, you're going to sing this note, now tighten up a little bit or loosen up or whatever.
Right.
Your your vocal cords just respond to what's here.
Yeah.
Just like your fingers will respond. And not only the notes themselves, but the nuance of the interpretation of how you're going to play. How soft you play a note, how hard you play a note. It's all one big thing.
Yeah.
So, who was, I think, was it you that was, where we had a guest artist, piano player who used to play with Phil Woods?
Was it Hal Galper?
Hal Galper.
Yes, I was here.
And
he picked me.
he picked you.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
Oh my
He
gosh.
picked you. And he said, now you sing it. And then you kind of sang it tentatively. Sing it like you really mean it. Put yourself into it.
Yeah.
Now play it. And then all of a sudden, bam!
He was right.
Yeah.
I remember the lick too. It was
What?
a Red Garland lick, I think.
Yeah.
And it just went
Yeah.
yeah, and I had been working on it.
Uh-huh.
And I've seen recently, since then, he does another kind of a class, and you can find it on YouTube, where he's doing the same thing with a guy, and he tells him, let's set a metronome, or maybe a mental metronome,
Uh-huh.
and he says, now set it on 2 and 4, and let me hear you play that lick. And it's not very fluid, and he messes up, and then he says, now let's set it on 1 and 3. And everything changes.
Mm-hmm.
He swings harder.
On
He's
1 and 3,
relaxed
he
on
swings.
1 and 3. Yeah,
That's backwards.
I know. He says there's something about the steadiness of 1 and 3 that can make you feel like you're
and
you're not rushed.
He talked about that in the clinic because he had been playing with Cannonball Adderley.
Right.
Remember, he talked about the big
beat. I remember.
The big beat, right?
Blew my mind.
Yeah. We remember the same stuff.
I can't believe you remember that stuff. that moment was big
I've
for me.
forgotten so much stuff, but there are certain things I remember, and I don't know why.
Wow.
That made an impression on me, yeah.
The other thing that made an impression like that was when John Clayton came to talk about getting rid of your real books.
Uh-huh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
was
that's been
important
one of
for
the
me.
great things about BYU is we have so many great people come through. We had Chick Corea here last year.
Did you really?
Yeah, last season with the Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra.
Oh my gosh.
And the rehearsal was wide open. Anybody could go in and watch them rehearse. And last year, the year before that, we had Branford Marcellus.
Do you want to play something together? Maybe a duet?
Sure. How about the one we started with?
Okay.
Autumn Leaves.
That sounds good. I wish I could.
You want to sit on that end?
Doesn't matter. Either
Okay, why
way.
don't you sit there?
Okay. Do you want to kind of take that idea of embellishing the melody
Okay.
and show some things about it? What key do you want to play it in?
B flat, G minor.
Okay.
Play a little intro.
Yeah.
Really fun.
Yeah.
Man, you
You've
keep
got
doing
great ideas.
Thank you. So do you.
Thank you.
Gosh, I used to think that the only possibilities, you know, in a situation like that were to walk a bass line and play a little compy, but there's so much more if you free yourself from that.
Yeah. Well, when I play solo piano, I very rarely walk a bass line.
Mm-hmm.
I think modern ears can interpret rootless voicings as the chords they're supposed to be.
Yeah, I think
Now,
you're right.
30 years ago, if you played solo piano, or 40 years ago, you played solo piano and then you were doing rootless voicings, most listeners it would just sound random to them. But, for instance,
Yeah.
this sounds just as tonal. Yeah, and I think most people, even less sophisticated listeners of jazz who are at least familiar with jazz, that sound is part of the language now.
I like that. That's a really good point. It took me a long time to be comfortable with that. I remember Dan Waldis taught me when I was here.
Uh-huh.
And I would go to my lessons and I would have practiced some standard with rootless voicings, and I'd always ask him to play the bass line.
Uh-huh.
Will you play me a bass line? He always would.
Because that would help you keep track of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just didn't sound good to me yet.
Yeah.
Without it.
Right.
Yeah. I think I used to play with a friend of mine who told me, he was a guitar player, but he said, let's play like Bill Evans and Jim Hall.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't need that. There's several, just wide open sections.
Yeah, wide open, and they're doing polyphonic counterpoint kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. The great model for all of that is the Jerry Mulligan Quartet without piano. First it was Chet Baker, and then Bob Brookmeyer took Chet Baker's place, but it was just such a wide open sound, and the comping was done as counter melody or obligato behind whoever was playing the solo.
Those are great arrangements.
Well, yeah, and I think the arrangements were great because Mulligan was a great arranger, but just the interaction between them that sometimes sounded like an arrangement was really just improvised.
Yeah,
because they both had, they're both piano players. Mulligan and Brookmeyer both were great piano players, and but I love those records. And by the way, I was going to mention my favorite record of Autumn Leaves is the one with Chet Baker and Paul Desmond. You know that one? With Bob James on piano.
No, I don't.
Oh, it's really a great record.
Oh, I'll listen to that.
Check that out.
Yeah.
Because it ends up with this. There's a modal vamp at the end of each chorus. Launches into the new chorus. At the end of every chorus,
on their solos,
they have that vamp where they can build momentum using a modal approach, and then bam, there's that launches into the tonal changes. Yeah, that's great.
I'll look that up. I was also gonna say that I think another important lesson I learned from you, because even though you weren't my piano teacher, I kind of felt like in a way you were my life coach as a jazz musician.
Well, thank you. That's
yeah, but you taught me
a lot.
the importance of the gig, of always trying to play out.
Mm-hmm.
And you got me so many gigs.
Yeah.
You got me the gig over in the Museum of Art playing. That was my first solo piano loungy kind of thing.
Yeah.
They gave me free lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was everything.
That's great.
And then, I mean, with the Dixieland Band.
Yeah.
You got us gigs everywhere.
Yeah. And
dance.
do you remember when we played for the big devotional service that they have like on Tuesday mornings, and you sang Just a Closer Walk with Thee.
That's right.
And that's the first time jazz had ever been played at one of those events.
Really?
I think it was the last time too.
Sorry. Oh my gosh.
But we got so many great comments about that.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, what an opportunity. And you actually, I mean, that's the first time I really started singing and playing piano in front of people ever.
And then I remember that one of the most fun gigs we did was when I did a concert at the museum with Bob Bailey. Rest his soul. He passed away last year. We did an all Hoagie Carmichael concert. Remember that?
I do.
And you sang.
At night. Yeah.
Yeah.
I sang, do you remember?
Let's see, Memphis in June.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we did a couple of
Up a
other.
Lazy River.
Yeah, and some kind of obscure. Did you do Baltimore Oriole?
I didn't.
Okay, he played that one.
But I think you had another singer come in, and maybe Lisa Paul, I can't remember.
Might have been, but
Sing some.
that was sure fun.
I still play Memphis in June. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Bob, what a player.
Wow, he was amazing, and my student band played for his funeral.
Did they really?
Yeah. Bob and I, one of the most memorable gigs. Bob, by the way, we should tell them who Bob Bailey was.
Yeah.
He was spent his whole career in Hollywood playing for TV shows, and he was the staff pianist for the Dean Martin show.
I didn't know that.
And he had accompanied. He was a music director for Pearl Bailey for a while,
Wow.
and he was just top notch. He could play any song in any key, and he moved when he retired from all his work in L.A. He wrote film scores too. He did film scores for some Dean Martin movies, and anyway, when he moved back to Utah, he was like our greatest jazz treasure in the state. But we got a gig together once. It was for the wedding of Larry King of CNN fame.
When he got married?
When he got married.
Like in the 90s or something?
Yeah.
Whoa.
And I'll never forget this. Larry King wanted to sing a song to the bride.
Wow.
And it was When I Fall in Love.
Oh, that's a hard tune.
Hard tune. It says, okay, Bob, Bob's voice was kind of like this. What key do you want to do it in, Larry? Well, I don't know. He said, well, sing your first note. Okay, we'll start right there. And so, the first phrase, when I fall in love, it will be forever.
Oh, no.
Each phrase was in a different key. He couldn't carry a tune, but Bob kind of found what key was in at any given time. It sort of sounded okay. I'll never forget that.
What a hard tune.
And he could play it in any key, so he just followed.
That's
what he was,
amazing.
yeah.
I mean, some piano players would, be mad about that and
Oh, yeah.
try to plunk out the melody.
Right. Try to get him back on track. No, he just went with it. He
Took-
just
took
goes
like a
with
challenge.
it. And that's what musicians have to do. They have to go with it.
Keys all the time.
Because your job as a musician is to make everybody else sound good. And it's really a problem when you think you're always right and they have to play it your way. And nothing's more annoying than playing a gig and having the bass player say, well, I don't play that, turn around, do this, do that, you gotta, you don't need to communicate so much verbally about what has to happen, you just listen to each other and make each other sound good. And, that's a good philosophy of life, just be helpful.
I love that.
Go with it.
Probably takes some age to get there and some
Yeah,
humility.
yeah.
Yeah, I deal with that with my kids sometimes. If one of them say something a little stupid, and the other one might say, "What?" You know,
Uh-huh.
don't do that. Use it to teach them and do it in a
Yeah.
nice way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I look back at myself in college, and I didn't know that then. I get
Few students do.
yeah, and the sad thing is that you don't really. I mean, I listened to you, and Lars was another great mentor of mine, but I think the trouble is sometimes you think you know better,
Mm-hmm.
and some years pass and you realize that was never the case.
Well, I don't think we teach enough professionalism in our. This should be part of the curriculum when you're studying music. How, and sometimes the teachers aren't the best examples of that, unfortunately. But
Sometimes they are.
yeah, sometimes they are. Hopefully, they are.
I can remember Ray Smith telling us how important it was to keep up your funk chops, keep up your, because everybody back then wanted to make fun of Kenny G.
Yeah.
He's making a lot of money.
Yeah.
And he's making a living, and so I wanted to believe that I would never have to play any other style of music.
Oh.
That's not the case.
As I get older, I like all kinds, more different kinds of music.
Me too.
I played with a band that did a lot of country western tunes, and wow, they're fun to play.
I love those old country western tunes.
Well, and some of them very sophisticated, like Me and Bobby McGee.
Oh yeah.
What a great song!
I love
That belongs in the Great American Songbook.
Yeah.
Right up there with Cole Porter, I think.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
a good song. Some Hank Williams songs.
Yeah.
Patsy Cline.
Oh yeah.
I
Great.
love those.
Bird loved country western music.
Did he?
Yeah, and the people would say, why are you listening to? You'd play it on the jukebox in the bars and stuff. Why are you listening to that corny old music? Yeah, but listen to the stories they're telling in that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it'll rip your heart out.
Yeah. And then of course, as you get older, those stories mean so much more. I always think of. I use this in my jazz history class all the time when we talk about torch songs.
Mm-hmm.
Now you know what a torch song is,
Yeah.
right? Of course, these kids have never heard that term, and these students have never heard that tune. So I tell the story of I heard an interview with Willie Nelson, and Willie Nelson said, I can't do his voice,
Mm-hmm.
but most people end up in life with somebody that's not their first choice, and that's what keeps the jukebox playing.
That's a great quote.
I belong to a group of amateur poets, and we get together once a month and read our poetry to each other and
Nice.
critique. One guy that was a lot older than me, but he'd always have a poem about his high school sweetheart. Still carrying a torch. And then when you hear Thelonious Monk play "I Should Care" on the,
I love that tune.
I know.
Yeah.
So in my jazz history class, I put the lyrics to that song. It's a torch song,
Yeah.
and great musicians always know the lyrics to the tunes. It informs you about how to play the tune.
I agree. I think they used to, like the great musicians too, they used to learn tunes from original sheet music a lot of times. I mean, along
Right.
with recordings, but
Yeah.
to learn those lyrics and
Right.
the correct melody.
Oh yeah. There's that story about Lester Young when he's on the bandstand and he gets into a song and all of a sudden he stops and puts his horn down and just walks off the stage. Somebody says, "Hey Prez, what happened? Why'd you stop playing?" He says, "I forgot the words."
I love that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's really appropriate, but it's a good point to make.
Yeah. Well, and that showed up in the film with Dexter Gordon on Around Midnight.
Nice.
They put that in there.
Would you like to play Me and Bobby McGee?
Yeah, sure.
I wonder if I could sing that.
Sure.
Okay. I think I know it. And you could accompany me if you want.
Okay.
Busted flat in Baton Rouge, waiting for a train. Feeling that is faded as my dreams. Bobby thumbed a diesel down just before it rained. Took us all the way to New Orleans. With my old harpoon in my dirty red bandana, I was playing soft while Bobby sang the blues. Windshield wipers slapping time, I was holding Bobby's hand in mine, and we sang every song that driver knew. Well, freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. Nothing, and it's nothing if we're free. Feeling good was easy when Bobby sang the blues. Feeling good was good enough for me. Good enough for me, my Bobby Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. It's nothing, and it's nothing unfit free. Feeling good was easy, Lord, when Bobby sang the blues. Feeling good was good enough for me. Feeling enough for me, my Bobby. Feeling good was easy, Lord. Bobby sang the blues. It was good enough for me, my Bobby.
Oh, you sound great.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Great tune.
yeah.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Yeah, fun to meet with you. And I'm so glad.